Hello and welcome back to Sage and Stone Homestead. My name is Heather. I've got a couple things to do in this video. One of those things is moving my boy goats from their current buck pen. So these little boys, they're gonna stay over here for now. We're not talking about you. They look like they've been in the protein pail today. You guys are messy. Yes, you are. But these boys over here, these are our main breeding bucks. We have Hamish, Havoc, and Odie, and they have a decent amount of grass in their little pasture over here, but I have been actually extending this pasture out with our Premier 1 netting, and they have done a really good job helping me keep the pasture mowed. I know a lot of people say that if you want help keeping a pasture mowed, you really don't want to use goats because they prefer browse. I'm here to tell you that they may prefer browse, but if all they have is pasture, they will absolutely eat all kinds of grass. I'm really hoping that it comes up on camera, and we'll get closer over there where you can really see where they have and haven't been. But this whole area here is a very nice height because they just came off of this. Over here you can see a pretty clear line of where they were and where they haven't been. And so I'm really excited to actually get them moved in over here on this section because they haven't been over here yet. So Hamish here, he was a bottle baby. He's gonna be very easy to catch. Havoc is not as easy to catch. I'm gonna try to get him first. Odie is medium easy to catch. I don't think I'm gonna have an issue with him, but we need to do the difficult boys first. In order to catch him, I'm gonna need some feed. So I tried to catch Havoc a little early and I missed, and so he's on to me. So I might have to call for reinforcements. Thank goodness it's Sunday and Levi's home. But for now I've got Odie. Come on, let's go. The wind actually knocked you over. All right, I think it's time to call reinforcements. I think that's actually the first successful leg catch that I've gotten with my little shepherd's crook. That thing, I've used it a couple times with the other side that catches the neck and it works really well. I was kind of afraid of catching Havoc by the leg because he has broken a leg before, and once they've broken a leg, the leg is kind of always weak, but I caught his front leg and on his back leg and it worked out really well. So if you didn't see the video where we first put in this net, we actually bought the Permanent Pro from Premier 1, and this particular net is designed to handle a little bit more weed pressure than some of the other nets. So right here is some of the grass that they've already eaten down, so this isn't bad bad here, but it does come up and touch the net here, but it really doesn't ground it out too bad, which is awesome. I'm gonna have to come back through. I wanna make sure I'm triple secure on this door here, but we're able to block off this little alleyway, and they have access to this pen here and all the grass that's on the outside. There's a little bit of a funny nook section over here where I wasn't really sure exactly how to close the loop, but it works, and we'll be able to adjust the netting in this space for at least a few weeks and have them eat down all the lovely grass, and I won't have to mow it, which is great. I don't know if the boys in this pasture have really been using this protein pail. I'm gonna give it a little bit of a clean out. It's got some hair and some hay in it, and I imagine it's not super appetizing to them the way it is now. But this is the way that we like to give our boys their minerals. Sometimes in high humidity areas, the loose mineral, the most ideal mineral for goats to have, just doesn't last very long. It cakes up and turns into a block, and after that they really don't want anything to do with it. These protein pails have a little bit of molasses in them, and so it helps keep them licking on it, and it helps give them the minerals and things that they need that my pasture can't provide. And I've put my hood up a little bit for protection from the bees. I had one bee come and investigate me, but in general this season my bees have been really, really friendly. I only got stung once, and I'm pretty sure it was my fault. Havoc just reminded me that I really don't want the boys jumping up on the roof of their pen in this area. During some of the bad windstorms that we have had this spring, the shingles have actually blown all off of the roof of this pen. So it works pretty well for a weather protection still, but I don't know how long it's gonna hold up as far as their weight on it goes, so I really don't want them getting hurt. Hamish is probably tall enough to get up there, but I don't know if he will. We'll see. I mean, it's pretty solid, but we're gonna have to fix it at some point. There's a wasp nest already starting up there. Oh, there's two. Oh no, I'm not going in there. I was gonna show you the damage that those boys have done to their little protein pail, but the wasps have already started building a nest, and that's one of the things I hate about these little goat shelters is the wasps love to build their nests in them, and then when you try to go in there, when the goats try to go in there, they dive bomb you. So obviously I have to take care of that, but I hate it. I hate it. So earlier in the day, I started a project that is very, very common for us in the springtime. We actually really did downsize our flock kind of a lot. I'm getting brand new chicks in the mail next week to kind of rejuvenate our egg layers, but they're still laying a whole ton, and they're laying enough that we can put some up as pickled eggs. So this is Rebel canning, and all I do is actually follow the recipe that's on the back of the Mrs. Wages pickle pack. I follow any kind of recipe that you would use for pickling any kind of vegetable, and I do it with eggs. Now the difference is I don't use any eggs that have any nicks or cracks or anything. They have to have a perfectly smooth surface once peeled, and then I just pickle them up. This is what our Amish friends here do locally, but again, it's Rebel canning, and if you do choose to do it, you're going to be taking a little bit of a risk. They get way in the back there.
Up there.
Is there one there currently? Yeah. Oh no.
That one's screwed.
Now he's encased.
Yep. It's the forever hornet.
Alrighty guys, so it's the next day. We're in the greenhouse, and I have to say I really love being able to look out the window here and just see the goats graze. It's really great. So this will be my second summer growing in this greenhouse. It's going to be my 5th summer growing in our raised bed garden. And we'll check out the plants in the raised bed garden in a second. But I wanted to show you guys something that I think I'm noticing is a pattern in this greenhouse. And I'm glad that I'm noticing it now instead of later, because the season has just begun. So it was a couple weeks ago at least, probably 3 weeks ago, that I planted this row here with lima beans and this row here with squash. And as you can probably notice, the germination rate isn't that awesome. So last year when I grew in this greenhouse, we had tomatoes, peppers, and marigolds. And the tomatoes, peppers, and marigolds were all put in as starts. And every time I tried to start something from seed in the greenhouse, it got mowed down. Now, in the fall time, my brassicas that I had started in start pots inside my house, those got eaten down by mice. But this is different. I'm noticing that there's a lot of like roly-polies and other type critters that have taken refuge underneath this weed fabric. It happens in my raised bed garden too, under the mulch, and roly-polies can be the death of your seeds. They supposedly only go after decaying matter, but I have read that they go after seeds as well. And we also do have a history of having really bad cutworms. And I have noticed that the older and stronger a plant is when it comes into contact with the ground where the cutworms and things are, the more resistant they are to being affected by those things. So the plan for this space is actually a lot of beans. I want to grow cowpeas in these 2 center aisles and different varieties of beans on either side of that to kind of help make up for what those heavy feeders that I grew last year, the tomatoes and peppers, I want to help try to make up for what those took out of the soil and help give back this year in those rows. But beans were something I tried to grow in this greenhouse last year, and the beans would come up and then something would mow it down. I think last year it was really a big slug issue. So this year it's not really common for people to start beans in pots, but that's what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna do that probably off camera, but I wanted you guys to know about it. A couple of the lima beans have come up. There's been something snacking on this one, and a couple of the different bush style squash varieties have come up too, but honestly not as many as I would have liked, and not as many as I really would have expected to based on germination rates from years prior. So yeah, some stuff that isn't traditionally started in pots, I think I'm gonna do so. I have this 100-foot lane out here that I'm sure you've noticed in some of the videos. It's kind of windy out here, so sorry about that. It's just this time of year. But we have everything that we need in order to set up the trellis system for this 100-foot lane. Over here it's going to be vining varieties of melons and squash. Stuff that really needs a lot of space to kind of ramble. That's gonna go out here, but I'm worried about things like cutworms and everything else that might want to go after my tender seedlings, so I'm gonna start those things in pots too. Is that baby last? Yeah. Come here, baby. Come here. Hi, buddy. Hi, come on. So today's the first day that I allow Boba and her babies out of their little kidding pen. Boba is a first freshener, so she's a first-time mom, and she's not as attentive to her babies as some mamas are, and this little guy got lost. Boba, are you missing someone? You've got one baby. Look. Our little baby that had the entropion eye, I think it was this one. I only had to recorrect the entropion eye twice. So right after I saw it, that day that he was born, and then that evening. It's a little bit crusty, but it's so much better than it was, and it hasn't curled under again. For a little while there, I wasn't sure that he was going to be able to see out of that eye, because I don't know how long it was curled under before I was able to correct it the second time, but it looked like the constant blinking with the eyelid turned under had really scratched his cornea, the surface of his eye. So I did put a little bit of terramycin. Oh, I'm getting eaten by a mochi. Oh, look at how big he is. So I did put a little bit of terramycin in the baby's eye that day, and it's been good ever since. Mochi's coming up on his 8-week mark, which is castration day. Anyways, back to the garden. So my purple cauliflower is coming to a head. I feel like it's at least a few weeks early, and it seems like the heads are going to be smaller than we've harvested in the past. Now these cauliflower plants are planted closer together than we have ever planted in the past, and that could be a reason why. My original plan with the last part of this video was to plant some of the birdhouse gourds and loofah gourds with you today, since it appears that we are past our last frost. I think I'm gonna hold off on that, and part of that is like what we talked about before. Cutworms, I've seen their activity in this bed a little bit with my radishes over here, and it does look like this coming weekend, so far our lowest low is 39, and no, that's really nowhere close to freezing, but you can get frosts in really any range in the 30s and the upper 30s as long as the wind is still. And a week out, it's really hard to tell exactly what's going to happen, so I really don't want to take the risk with those things. But the peas are finally starting to take hold. At least they're trying to, if the wind will let them. This one's got a good hold. And the blackberries are really starting to explode. I think they're gonna shade out some of the chamomile that's down here. That's okay, there's actually some in the walkway that I think I'm going to let flower. I'm not gonna mow in here, we'll see what happens. So over here, you guys may recognize these plants that really haven't changed much at all in the last month. I planted these starts with Shika in the greenhouse probably 2 months ago, and a 2-month-old lettuce plant really should be full size. We should be harvesting from it, and we're not. And at this point in the season, it's really not a temperature thing, and it's really not a sunlight thing. What this is a nutrition thing. So this is the first year that I've used the Stay Green garden soil in my pots. Usually I use Miracle-Gro garden soil, and what I do with my garden soil, since it's really not optimized for pots, is I'll add 50% perlite or vermiculite to add aeration into the soil, and then 50% soil by volume. So if I'm working with 4 cups of garden soil, I'll add in 4 cups of either perlite or horticultural vermiculite, and that essentially turns it into potting soil. I've done that with Miracle-Gro garden soil in the past, never had a problem. This is my first time with this particular brand. It's called Stay Green, and I don't think I like it. I really don't think there's nutrition that's available to the plants inside the bag. Maybe it's not broken down enough, but this is definitely a nutrition deficiency. The pots are kind of dry right now, and I imagine that the wind is contributing to their dryness, and so I don't really want to transplant them right now while they could be under the stress of being a little bit dry because of the wind. What I'm going to do is actually turn on our sprinklers, let them get a little bit wet, and I think either tonight or tomorrow I'm going to transplant some of these bigger ones into the garden because I know there's plenty of nutrition in these beds. Here's an example of how I know that that's true. This is a lettuce plant that volunteered in here from last year. This plant is much younger than the plants that you saw in the bed over there, but it's a lot bigger. Over here, these are the red onions that we planted a little while ago. They're looking really awesome. So fun fact, if you didn't know it about onions, the number of rings in an onion directly correlates to the number of leaves above the ground. I didn't know that until recently, and I thought that was really cool. It looks like this onion is gonna have lots and lots of layers. And maybe this one has a little bit fewer layers, at least for now. And see if you can notice here too. Over here I have garlic. But you can notice that the leaves are nice and flat, while the leaves on the onion are actually round and hollow. Super cool to see the difference. Most of the girls have gone out to graze, and I am going to close this video out and do a few little gardening things. I wanted to take this chance at the end of the video though to let you know that I did just upload onto our website our first seed listing. So I have been growing in secret some micro dwarf tomatoes inside my tabletop or my countertop hydroponic system inside my house. It was the orange hat tomato, and they did really well. I was very pleasantly surprised with how sturdy that these plants are, and honestly with how much flavor was in a hydroponic tomato. I didn't know you could really get that much flavor out of a tomato that was grown in water. Obviously with some nutrition in it as well, but still. So I harvested some seed from some of those tomatoes, and they're available on the website right now. $2 a packet. You get at least 10 seeds in a packet. There's probably some packets that have close to twice that, so I think it's a really good deal. I'll leave a link in the description so you can check that out.